Hello everybody, this is Terry Jeanette with the Tapping Flamingo. Today we're going to talk about some of the tools that I use when I make jewelry. The first thing I'm going to address is some type of a cloth. Now I just use this remnant. I chose this color only because it is best for videotaping, but if you're not going to be videotaping, you can use just whatever color you want. Maybe a piece of felt or just whatever you have on hand. And basically the reason that I suggest you have a piece of cloth is so when you pour your beads out, they don't roll all over the place. This will keep them from rolling off onto the floor for the most part. Now, the second thing I'm going to address are pliers. Now, I just want to say something. If you hear a crying baby in the background, my daughter-in-law is dealing with a colicky baby. Anyway, poor little guy. He is okay, but he is not very happy. So these tools, like I said, are the first things I'm going to address. Some people call them chain nose pliers. Some people call them flat nose pliers. These are actually needle nose pliers. Look how long they are. This is more probably what a flat nose plier is. See how thick it is. And I guess these would be considered your chain nose pliers. Now these are a little bitty. I have actually a kit that I bought that I travel with that has the chain nose pliers, round nose pliers, and cutters. And they're really handy to have if you're not going to really be doing a whole lot of jewelry making, maybe just a little bit, or repairing when you're out and about on a trip or something. One of the first pliers like these I had were these. They're not really that usable anymore. If you notice right here, there was a spring that made them easier to work with, and over the ages, the spring has actually broken. They're still usable, but they're not that easy to use, honestly. See, here on these needle nose pliers, you can see the spring, and it keeps it where it's will automatically open. This you just you have to hold them in a kind of different way to maneuver them. These are very easy to work with because they have that little spring in there. This is a different kind of spring that keeps them open too. These I have in, these came in a kit where I have these round nose pliers and my cutters. They're kind of the grown-up version of these, and I absolutely love these. These were the second set of pliers that I ever bought after I had these. And as you notice, they have they don't have a spring, but they have another little mechanism here that keeps them open, so they're easy to work with. That's what these have too, a little bit different. My favorite though, these, but also these. And when I'm traveling and I know I'm going to be making jewelry, I usually bring these with me, not these. These are like my expensive favorite ones. And I love the way they fit with my hand. And you will notice I have a lot of videos where I use these in my jewelry making. And these are a must-have. I mean, you really have to have these. The next set of tools I'm going to address are cutters. Scissors are nice to have, but you need to have something besides scissors. I see a lot of people on YouTube that are showing how to make jewelry, and a lot of them use scissors to cut wire and other things, and I just cringe. They do work, but you're going to ruin your scissors. They're not going to last that long, and you can't get a really good clean cut with a pair of scissors. Now I have these type of cutters that are fun to have. Notice the little springy thing here. Again, it keeps it open, and they're pretty good. But flush cutters is what I highly recommend. So with flush cutters, you have one side looks different than the other. This is kind of a rounded out. This is concaved. And with flush cutters, when you make something and you need to cut your wire, these can get very, very close to your work where you can clip that as close as you can. A pair of scissors, that's not going to work. You cannot get very, very close and you will have something still poking out. Whereas with these, you can get right in there and get those little ends clipped off so they don't scratch your neck, as in this piece of jewelry here. If I was just to use a pair of scissors, I would probably get some scratchiness in there, or rather scratchiness on my neck. These are my favorite, most favorite. Again, they're the Xuron, same company as these. See how they're shaped? They're kind of, I don't know really how to explain this. I think you can probably see when I'm talking about how they're curved up. You put this to your work and you're able to cut your wire very close. And these are open all the time unless you actually close them, which makes it a lot easier to work with. These, I do know some people that use these. They're okay, but they're not as sharp, and they're not really meant for jewelry making, and so I don't know. I would not recommend them. But if you do have them on hand and you're just starting out, go ahead and try those. This kit here, like I said, see if I can find the round nose pliers here that they went with. Here we go. I got them at Walmart for like $10, and I still think they have the same kit available. So that is a good starter kit for your pliers. The next thing I want to address is this jobber-do right here. It is called a memory wire cutter, and these are great for memory wire and for stainless steel chain, or stainless steel period. I have used, before I knew it, I think these are the ones. No, probably don't have them anymore. I had a pair of, oh, you can tell on here. I don't know if you can really see how it's kind of nicked right there. I use these on wire cutters, memory wire bracelets, and it kind of nicked it a little bit, and it does dull your the sharpness there. So if you're going to use memory wire for any of your projects or stainless steel chain, I highly recommend you get you some memory wire cutters. Now, the first two tools that I talked about, the cutters and the chain nose pliers, are a definite must when it comes to jewelry making. These next things that I'm going to address are a little bit more specialty tools. The round nose pliers, maybe not so much a specialty tool, but you don't really have to have it unless you're going to be making stuff that has a lot of loops. You can use your pliers like these to make the loops, but they're not going to come out as nice and round as if you were to use round nose pliers. And I do believe I have a video about that, and I'll leave a link up here for you to click on if I can find that video. But in order to make your pretty round loops like this, you have several options. And let me run through the round nose pliers first. I'm going to talk about this one. I actually ordered this off of BB Craft. I have very small hands. This is very difficult for me to maneuver, And so I've tried it. It's a great idea. If you have bigger, stronger hands, maybe something like this will work for you. But if you're like me and you have smaller hands and maybe some hand issues, I would suggest getting smaller round nose pliers. I really do like these though because they have the different sizes on here. I use these a lot, and I just have to really pay attention to where I put my wire, and it's usually in the middle here unless I want it smaller or larger. Now I have these 3 pair of round nose pliers, but again, they don't have the spring thing in there, and they're kind of hard to maneuver. You just kind of have to figure out how to do it. So my suggestion is find something that's got a spring of some sort that's going to keep your pliers open, where you're the one that shuts them, instead of like this where you have to open them. Those are more difficult to use. I also like to use these. These are more of a bail maker, and I have seen them where they have different sizes. Like you may have 6 different sizes on each side. Those are really cool. I don't have one of those yet, maybe someday. But these are the 2 that I use all the time. So we have our chain nose pliers, our round nose pliers, and our cutters. These are the 3 basic tools that I would highly recommend anybody starting out have. Now, I'm going to address some other very, very specialized tools that may or may not be something you would want, but I'll explain each and every one of them. Since we just talked about loops, I want to address the one-step looper. I thought I was going to really like this a lot, and honestly, it's just okay. You cannot use them on anything like this because these are wrapped loops. They have to be used on something like this where it's just your basic loop there. And they're pretty cool. They have, so they're all open. I wish they weren't open so wide, because there again, I have the same issue that I had with this. In fact, it's even wider. And when to open my hand wide like this really hurts. I've got a lot of, I don't have, well, I probably do have a little bit of arthritis because I am in my 60s, so more likely I do, but it's more stuff like carpal tunnel and other things like that that hurt, and trigger thumb is one of them. So for me to open my hand that wide, it hurts. But if you don't have any hand issues, you might like something like this. So you just basically take your eye pin. Now this is not an eye pin I have, and you put it through there like this, okay? And there's a hole right here. In fact, let me go get an eye pin and I'll show you. Okay, so I have a piece of wire. That works too. So basically you're going to take your wire and you're going to put it through here until it goes out the hole like that, okay? Let me flip it over so you can check that out. And when you squeeze it, it makes a loop. And then you kind of have to adjust the loop a little bit. And this is what you get, which is okay, but then that means I usually have to go back and get my round nose pliers here, and I have to adjust it. So I look at it this way. Why should I spend quite a bit of money on something like this when I can just do it with my regular pliers? Because it's also not all the way shut, so you have to shut it. But if you're somebody that does a lot of loops, this may be something you would be interested in. These actually at Hobby Lobby were $25, so they are pretty pricey. So you probably remember seeing this just a second ago, and you're thinking, what is that? It's just a pen. I use this thing all the time. I use it to fray a lot of my boho pieces, hemp, or any type of fabric like that I want it to kind of look like it's shredded a little bit. I'll use that. Whenever I am making a necklace or bracelet that I need to tie knots and feed those knots into these little things, which are called a clamshell bead tip, I use that to feed it in there. These little things come in really handy. So any type of a pen or a needle would be something I would recommend to put into your tools, and I just store mine like that, and it travels nicely. By the way, something else I use is a bead reamer. This comes in handy too. Very pointy. It's kind of like sandpapery here, metal, and sometimes, especially like wood beads, have like stuff in them. They may not, hole may not be even all the way through, or maybe the hole's not big enough, and you need to be a little bit bigger. You can take this in there in the hole and carefully clear it out. And again, for my boho pieces where I like to fray my hemp or whatever, this comes in handy also. Here are some bent nose pliers. I don't use these a whole lot, but when I do need them, they come in pretty handy also. Because they're bent, sometimes it's easier for me to kind of get into certain areas. Like I said, I don't use them very often, but when I need them, they come in quite handy. The next thing I'm going to show you is called a split ring plier. And I was really excited to get my first pair of these, which these were them. But once I got home and started using them, I was quite disappointed. Here are the ones that I really like. Do you see the difference? See how this is longer? These are almost even. These are a lot harder to use. What you use them for is to open up a split ring, which is a jump ring that goes, it's like a, okay, instead of trying to explain to you what a split ring is, I got one. And this is just a split ring keychain, and they have little split rings too that I like to put on charms. Like if I'm making a charm bracelet or a keychain with charms on it, I like to put the charms onto the split ring. And this opens up the split ring. Now, these work pretty well for these bigger ones, but I recommend getting this one. I highly, highly recommend it. And basically, it just has a little hook here, and then it has a groove here. You're going to open up your split ring, and then you can feed on your whatever you need to feed on, or feed off. For instance, see, I don't want that off though, so I'll keep it on. But these, like I said, if you use a lot of split rings, these are a must. The next two things I'm going to address are these two pair of crimper pliers. Now, I don't use crimp beads. I don't like them. I don't like the way they look on my pieces. I have lots and lots of videos showing how I use I think they call them now a crimp bead cover. But back in the day when I was learning to make jewelry many, many years ago, we called them a clamshell bead tip, I think is what it's called. And that's what I use. But if you're going to use crimps, you will need a crimper. The next thing I want to show you are these. And if you work with wire, these will come in handy. You don't have to have them, but they come in handy. They're really great for strengthening, but also straightening is what I meant to say. Straightening your wire, or maybe even getting a little stronger sometimes. But I never have any luck. These little plastic things They fall off all the time. These aren't even any good anymore, so I need to throw them away. And I don't know where the other ones of these are, so that's going to have to be tossed too. But I do have these. And like I said, they come in really handy. I highly recommend a ruler. This is a 6-inch ruler. It fits into my little bag very nicely. And I mean, if you have something, like if you need a 12-inch ruler, that's fine, whatever. The 6-inch ruler works for me for transportation. I do have a tape measure. Those are nice to have. And believe it or not, I use a hole punch a lot, but it's mainly for my business. Sometimes I like to punch holes in my business cards to hang them, or anyway, these come in handy quite often. Something else that comes in handy is a crochet hook. Whenever you're tying a knot, sometimes you may want to go through and pull stuff through the knot, and this really helps with that. And look at this. How many of you have ever seen one of these or have used them? I don't know what they're called, but it is like a split ring splitter ring. I don't know what it's called, but whenever I am working on something and I need to take a jump ring, actually I said split ring, I meant to say jump ring, but whenever I need to open up a jump ring, these come in really handy. Trying to find a jump ring here. Well, here's a jump ring. I'll just use this. Now find my. So I just take a pair of pliers. A lot of times I've seen where people will take 2 pliers and go like this. I've also taken my fingers and done that, but look at that. I love this tool right here. And look at this. Has anybody ever seen one of these? These are really cool. If you are beading something, maybe beading up a necklace, and you've cut your wire, you don't want your beads to fall off on the other end. So you can just take this and clip it like this, and so your beads won't fall off the end. That is cool. Something else that I have in my stash of tools is this little razor-like thing. So what do I use this for? So for instance, if I have a bead, I've had a bead before where it was a metal bead and it had a little rough area, I can just sand it down a little bit. Or if I had, it doesn't come up very often, but when it does, they're really nice to have. Whenever you have like a rough metal area, you can just kind of sand it down a little bit. So that's a good tool. A polishing cloth is really nice to have, especially if you're dealing with sterling silver, but even your base metals, they do tend to tarnish. And in fact, my necklace here, this is a very old necklace. I wear it quite often. And this lobster claw has tarnished. And I could just take a polishing cloth. Boy, that poor little baby, I don't know if you can hear him or not. Anyway, you can just buff up your metal. And it's coming untarnished there. To work with it a little bit longer, but a polishing cloth is really nice to have. So I hope this helps you out a little bit on some of the tools that are used for jewelry making. There's a lot of other tools out there that I don't have, and you don't need all these tools. Like I said, the 3 basic ones you need would be you need some type of a cutter, you need I recommend round nose pliers, and then if I can find them, they're buried here, some flat nose, chain nose, plier type things. These are your basic tools, but if you want to branch out and get other tools, there's all kinds out there. I hope this helps you. Let me know what tools you like to use, and if you want to check out some of my other videos on different tools and a little bit more in depth of what they're used for, I do have a playlist that I will leave a link down in the description box below. Thanks for joining me. Y'all have a great day. This is Terry Jeanette with the Tapping Flamingo signing out for now. Bye-bye.